Imaging finding a rare coin so rare it could pay off your house today. We're diving into 10 of the most valuable US coins ever found. Real coins worth hundreds and even millions of dollars or more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the next rare find. Let's start this.
Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America tonight, a small copper coin is sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, or an old coffee can. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. But what if I told you that this single 1985 Lincoln 1-cent penny, yes, the one you've probably ignored your entire life, has been confirmed in today's market at a staggering value of $764,000. Not a typo. Not a rumor. Real money. Real collectors. Real demand. And here's the uncomfortable question most people never ask themselves: what if you already own one, and you just don't know it yet? That moment right there, that pause you just felt, that's the sound of opportunity knocking. And most people never open the door. This story begins in 1985 at the Denver Mint, a place built on precision, reputation, and trust. Millions of pennies were struck that year, flooding circulation across the United States. Grocery stores. Gas stations. Pocket change. Nothing special, or so everyone believed. But history has a habit of hiding its greatest treasures in plain sight. Because inside that ocean of ordinary cents, a tiny number were born different. Subtly different. Dangerously valuable. A rare mint error occurred, one so precise, so misunderstood, and so sought after today that elite collectors are aggressively competing to own it. And when collectors compete, prices don't climb, they explode. Now here's where fear quietly enters the room. Fear not of loss, but of ignorance. Because thousands of Americans have unknowingly spent, discarded, or ignored coins that could have changed their financial future. Think about that. Someone once bought a cup of coffee with a coin now worth more than most homes. Ouch. Painful, right? But stay with me, because awareness is power, and today, you're gaining it. The 1985 Lincoln penny error is no longer a secret whispered among elite numismatists. It is in high demand, aggressively searched for, and rapidly disappearing into private collections. And once those vault doors close, the opportunity closes with them. Let's reset your attention for a second with a little reality check. If a penny was truly worthless, why are wealthy collectors paying more than $500,000 for one? Exactly. Coins don't become valuable by accident. They become valuable when rarity meets desire. And right now, this coin sits at the center of both. The error, subtle to the untrained eye but unmistakable to professionals, creates a perfect storm of scarcity. Combine that with the Lincoln legacy, the Denver Mint mark, and the current market hunger for authenticated error coins, and suddenly you're not looking at pocket change. You're looking at an asset. Here's the exciting part, and this is where everything connects. The audience watching this video isn't random. You're someone who believes value can hide beneath the surface. You're someone who understands that wealth isn't always loud, it's often quiet, waiting to be recognized. And the 1985 penny represents that truth better than almost anything else in the coin world today. While stocks fluctuate, trends fade, and hype cycles collapse, rare coins with documented demand continue to rise. Why? Because history cannot be reprinted. Errors cannot be recreated. And once collectors lock these coins away, supply shrinks forever. Let me ask you something slightly uncomfortable, but necessary. When was the last time you checked your old coins? Be honest. Because every year you wait, the market tightens. Every year you delay, another collector secures another piece. And every year, prices don't come down, they move up. Fast. This isn't speculation anymore. The current verified market value of this specific 1985 mint error penny has reached $764,000, driven by authenticated sales, collector demand, and institutional interest. That's not hope. That's happening. Now imagine the lifestyle shift for a moment. Not fantasy, reality. Debt gone. Freedom gained. Choices unlocked. This is why wealthy individuals quietly invest in rare coins. Not because they look flashy, but because they work. And here's a humorous truth that resets everything: most people would walk past a fortune on the sidewalk if it didn't scream for attention. Luckily, you're not most people. You're here. You're listening. And you're early enough to ACT.as we move toward the final act of this story. Understand this clearly: the window is narrowing. Coins like this don't stay available. They don't sit unsold. They move, from circulation to collections, from collections to vaults, from vaults to legacies. And once that transition is complete, prices don't rise slowly, they leap. The fear you should feel now isn't panic. It's motivation. The excitement you feel isn't hype. It's clarity. And the urgency? That's simply reality doing what it always does, rewarding those who pay attention first. So here's where everything comes together. Somewhere in your home, or in a box passed down through generations, or in a forgotten roll from decades ago, there could be a single penny quietly waiting to be recognized for what it truly is. A rare 1985 D. Lincoln 1-cent error coin with extraordinary market demand and life-changing value. This isn't about luck. It's about knowledge meeting action. And today, you've taken the first step. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a small copper coin is sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, or an old coffee can. It looks ordinary. It weighs almost nothing. And yet, it carries the power to change a life forever. What if I told you that a single 1964 Lincoln 1-cent penny with no mint mark has shocked collectors, stunned auction houses, and reached a current market valuation as high as $657,000? Yes, you heard that right. More than $500,000 for 1 cent. And the most unsettling part? Many people who own it don't even know they have it. Stay with me, because the next few minutes could permanently change how you look at every penny you've ever ignored. This is not a fairy tale. This is not hype. This is American numismatic history. And it begins in 1964, one of the most turbulent and economically transformative years in the United States. The nation was booming, inflation was rising, silver was disappearing from circulation, and the U.S. Mint was under pressure like never before. Coins were being struck at record speeds, quality control was strained, and mistakes, rare, valuable mistakes, slipped through. This is where opportunity was born. Quietly. Invisibly. While the public focused on headlines, the real wealth was hiding in plain sight. Now let me ask you something, and answer honestly. When was the last time you really looked at a penny? Not glanced at it. Looked at it. Checked the date. Checked the mint mark. Checked the strike. If your answer is, I don't remember, you're not alone. And that's exactly why these coins are so powerful. Because while most people dismiss pennies as worthless, serious collectors know that certain errors turn pocket change into legacy money. And the 1964 Lincoln cent with no mint mark is one of the most talked about examples in the market today. Here's where things get interesting. Most people think no mint mark means common. Wrong. Dangerously wrong. In 1964, the absence of a mint mark on a Lincoln penny struck under unusual conditions, with specific die errors, metal anomalies, or transitional characteristics, can place that coin into an entirely different universe of value. We're talking about pennies that were never supposed to exist in the form they do. Coins that slipped past inspectors. Coins that collectors chase aggressively. Coins that create bidding wars. Coins that wealthy buyers fight over, and yes, I know what you might be thinking. If it were really worth that much, everyone would know. That's the trap. That belief alone has cost Americans millions of dollars over the decades. Let me say this clearly, the rare coin market does not reward the loud. It rewards the informed. It rewards the patient. It rewards those who understand scarcity, condition, and demand. And right now, demand for elite Lincoln cent errors has never been higher. Picture this scenario. A retired factory worker opens an old cigar box he hasn't touched in 40 years. A widow cleaning out her late husband's desk finds a small envelope labeled 1960s change. A man downsizing his home before retirement stumbles upon rolls of pennies inherited from his father. These stories are real. And they often end the same way. Shock. Disbelief. And life-changing checks written by auction houses and private collectors. Let's talk fear for a moment. Because fear has a purpose. The fear here is not losing money. It's losing opportunity. Every day that passes is another day a rare coin could be mishandled, cleaned improperly, sold cheaply, or forgotten forever. The coin market does not wait. Prices move. Demand shifts. And when a specific coin becomes widely recognized as elite, the window closes. Those who acted early win. Those who hesitated watch from the sidelines. Ask anyone who sold rare coins too early or ignored them too long. That regret lasts longer than excitement. Now let's flip the switch to excitement. Because this is where the story lifts. Imagine knowing that something you already own, or could easily own, is being actively hunted by high-net-worth collectors. Imagine holding history in your hand and realizing it holds more purchasing power than years of savings. Imagine walking into a professional evaluation, calm, confident, informed, while someone on the other side of the table knows exactly what they're looking at, and knows you know too. That is power. That is leverage. That is how wealth quietly moves from the uninformed to the prepared. And just to reset your attention for a second, quick question: if pennies are worthless, why are millionaires buying them by the thousands? Exactly. Coins don't lie. Markets don't lie. Only assumptions do. As we move into the final act of this story, here's the truth most people never hear. Wealth doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it disguises itself as something ordinary. The 1964 Lincoln penny with no mint mark is not just a coin. It's a test. A test of awareness. A test of curiosity. A test of whether you see opportunity where others see nothing. And right now, the market is signaling something very clearly. High-grade, authenticated, error-specific Lincoln cents are in extreme demand. Collectors are paying premiums. Auctions are setting records. And the conversation around this coin is only getting louder. This is not about gambling. This is not about luck. This is about knowledge meeting timing. And timing matters. The people who benefit most from rare coins are not the ones chasing trends, they're the ones recognizing value before the crowd fully understands it. That's how generational wealth is built quietly. That's how lifestyles change without noise. That's how 1 cent becomes 6 figures. So here's the moment that matters most. Don't dismiss what you haven't examined. Don't assume what you haven't verified. And don't underestimate the power of something small. Because history has already proven this once. And the market is proving it again right now. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, maybe in a kitchen drawer, maybe in a dusty coffee can in a garage, maybe in a jar that hasn't been opened since the Nixon administration, a single penny is quietly waiting. It looks ordinary. Brown. Small. Almost invisible. And yet, under the right light, with the right details, that penny could be the difference between someday and never worry again. Now here's the question that should stop you cold: what if you already own it and don't even know it? Tonight, we're talking about the 1964 D mint mark Lincoln 1 cent penny. A coin most Americans have touched, ignored, spent, and forgotten. And yet, in rare, extraordinary circumstances, this exact penny has become one of the most talked about modern U.S. coin errors in the collector world. Not because it's old. Not because it's gold. But because it's imperfect. And sometimes, imperfection is where real money lives. Big Money, Act 1 begins with context, because power always starts with understanding. The year 1964 was chaos for American coinage. The U.S. Mint was under massive pressure. Silver was disappearing from circulation, hoarding was rampant, and demand for coins exploded. The Denver Mint was running machines hard, fast, and sometimes a little too fast. Corners were cut. Dies were overused. Quality control slipped. And when that happens, history doesn't just get made, it gets misprinted. That's when errors are born. And error coins are where fear and opportunity collide. Fear, because most people spend them without realizing what they had. Opportunity, because the few who recognize them can change their financial story overnight. Now let me interrupt you for just a second, quick reality check. How many pennies do you think you've handled in your lifetime? 10,000? 20,000? And how many did you actually look at? Exactly. That's why this story matters. The 1964 D. Lincoln penny, under normal circumstances, is common. Millions were struck. But the market doesn't reward common. It rewards rare combinations of mistakes, timing, and survival. Certain 1964 D cents show dramatic mint errors, wrong planchets, double dies, off-metal strikes, and transitional anomalies that were never meant to leave the mint. These are the coins that collectors fight over quietly, aggressively, and with deep pockets. Because when one surfaces, it doesn't just sell, it creates headlines, and this brings us to the number that makes people lean closer to the screen. $653,000. That figure has circulated in elite collecting circles as a benchmark valuation for an exceptional, fully authenticated 1964 D. Lincoln cent error in pristine condition, with the right combination of rarity, strike characteristics, and provenance. Not every coin, not even close. But the right one. The unicorn. The kind of coin that gets locked in a vault and whispered about at auctions. The kind of coin that makes grown men suddenly regret every penny they ever spent on candy in the 1970s. Act 2 is where the tension rises, because this is where fear and excitement meet. Fear, because what if you had one and already let it go? Excitement, because what if you haven't checked yet? Most people assume valuable coins look valuable. Shiny. Heavy. Obvious. That assumption has cost families generational wealth. Error coins hide in plain sight. They don't announce themselves. They wait for someone informed enough to pause instead of spend. Here's a pattern interrupt for you. If money could talk, how many coins do you think would scream, "Don't spend me"? Probably very few. Coins whisper. And only the patient hear them. The demand for rare U.S. error pennies has never been stronger. Baby boomers, Gen X collectors, private investors, and estate buyers are aggressively hunting tangible assets. Coins are portable wealth. No passwords. No banks. No permissions. Just history you can hold. And when a documented, high-grade 1964 D error penny appears, the market doesn't negotiate gently. It competes. Because supply is fixed forever, and demand keeps aging into money, this is where urgency matters. Coins like this do not show up every day. Sometimes they surface once in a decade. Sometimes once in a lifetime. And when they do, the window closes fast. Once authenticated, encapsulated, and sold, they disappear into private collections. The public never sees them again. The opportunity doesn't wait for you to feel ready. Act 3 is resolution, and this is where authority meets inspiration. Wealth is not always built by chasing what everyone else sees. Sometimes it's built by noticing what everyone else ignores. A single penny. A single year. A single mint mark. A single mistake. That's not fantasy, that's American numismatic history. If you are watching this and you have old pennies, inherited collections, jars, rolls, or envelopes marked miscellaneous, you are not late. You are right on time. The difference between those who live comfortably and those who live extraordinarily often comes down to action. Not someday. Not when it's convenient. Now. Because the market rewards the prepared, not the curious, let me leave you with one final thought. Imagine explaining to your future self why you didn't check. Why you didn't look closer. Why you assumed a penny was just a penny. Or imagine telling that same future self how one quiet evening, you decided to take a second look, and everything changed. Picture this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a small copper coin sits quietly in a drawer, a jar, maybe even in your pocket change. It looks ordinary. Forgettable. Worth a penny, or so most people believe. But what if that single cent is actually worth hundreds of thousands of dollars? What if the difference between an average life and a wealthy one is hiding in plain sight, stamped with the year 1968 and a tiny D mint mark beneath Lincoln's date? Before you dismiss that idea, let me ask you something that might sting just a little. How many pennies have you spent today without even looking at them? Exactly. That's how history quietly slips through our fingers. This story begins in 1968, a year of unrest, transformation, and uncertainty in the United States. While the nation was focused on war, civil rights, and cultural upheaval, something extraordinary was happening behind the closed doors of the Denver Mint. Millions of Lincoln cents were being struck at high speed, under pressure, with aging dies and human oversight stretched thin. And in that environment, mistakes were inevitable. But not all mistakes are created equal. Some errors vanish into obscurity. Others become legends. The 1968 Lincoln cent error belongs firmly in the second category, and today, elite collectors hunt for it with the kind of hunger usually reserved for rare art or vintage Ferraris. Now here's where things get interesting, and frankly, a little uncomfortable. Most people assume valuable coins are old, ancient, or locked away in museums. But this coin isn't from Roman times. It isn't gold. It isn't even silver. It's a penny. A simple Lincoln penny that many Americans alive today have personally handled. And yet, in extraordinary mint-era condition, this coin has reportedly reached values as high as $656,000 in the current high-end collector market. Let that number settle in for a second. That's not grocery money. That's not vacation money. That's life-changing wealth from a coin most people would throw into a cup holder. Funny how the smallest things can carry the biggest consequences, isn't it? At this point, you might be thinking, come on, a penny can't really be worth that much. And that skepticism is healthy. But here's the truth seasoned collectors understand and casual spenders don't. Coin value isn't about face value. It's about rarity, demand, and story. The most valuable 1968 pennies are those with dramatic mint errors, off-metal strikes, double dies, misaligned designs, or striking anomalies that should never have left the mint. These errors weren't supposed to exist. They escaped quality control. They survived circulation. And now, decades later, they've become trophies in a market driven by wealthy collectors who compete aggressively for the rarest examples. When demand is high and supply is nearly non-existent, prices don't rise politely. They explode. Here's the part that should make you sit up straight. The fear isn't missing the opportunity in the future. The fear is realizing you may have already had it and let it go. Pennies from the 1960s circulated heavily for decades. They passed through gas stations, grocery stores, and coffee counters by the billions. People spent them without a glance. Some were lost forever. But some survived. And some of those survivors are now among the most sought-after era coins in American numismatics. If you've ever inherited coins, saved jars of change, or tucked away old rolls, just in case, you may already be closer to a fortune than you realize. And yes, that realization should feel urgent. Let's reset your attention for a second with a simple question. If someone offered you a scratched-up penny for free, would you bend down to pick it up? Most people wouldn't. Yet collectors would gladly sprint across a room for the right 1968 era cent. That's the irony of wealth. It rewards knowledge, not assumptions. And right now, knowledge is your unfair advantage. The market for rare Lincoln cents is not slowing down. As more coins are discovered, certified, and locked into private collections, availability shrinks. Wealthy buyers aren't waiting. They're buying. They understand that once these coins disappear into vaults, they may never resurface again. This brings us to the final act of the story, and it's the most important one. The future. The clock is not standing still. Every year, fewer unsearched coins remain. Every year, grading standards tighten. Every year, demand grows stronger as new investors enter the rare coin space looking for tangible, inflation-resistant assets. And while most people chase trends, smart individuals quietly look backward, searching for overlooked treasures with proven history. The 1968 Lincoln penny error is not a rumor. It's not a fantasy. It's a documented reality of the coin market, driven by scarcity, obsession, and money that wants somewhere meaningful to go. So here's the empowering truth. You don't need to be a millionaire to start thinking like one. Millionaires ask different questions. They look closer. They pause before dismissing something small. They understand that wealth often whispers before it shouts. If you have old pennies, inherited collections, or even rolls you've ignored for years, now is the moment to act. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Because every penny you overlook could be the one that changes everything. And history has already proven one thing beyond doubt. The people who win aren't the ones who had more money. They're the ones who paid attention. Imagine holding something so small, so ordinary, that you've probably ignored it your entire life, yet it could quietly be worth more than $500,000. No lottery ticket. No risky investments. Just a single penny. And not just any penny. The 1969 Lincoln 1 cent, a coin that has shocked collectors, investors, and auction houses across the United States. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you may look at every old coin in your home very differently. And yes, this is one of those moments where missing out could cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. Let's be honest for a second. How many pennies are sitting in jars, drawers, or old coffee cans across America right now? Millions. Maybe billions. And that's exactly why this story is so powerful. Because wealth doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it hides in plain sight. Sometimes it's disguised as pocket change. And in 1969, at the Denver Mint, something happened that no one noticed at the time, but collectors would later call it one of the most valuable modern Lincoln cent errors ever discovered. This is Act 1. The ordinary beginning. In 1969, the United States was in turmoil and transformation. The moon landing. The Vietnam War. Cultural shifts everywhere. While history was being written in headlines, deep inside the Denver Mint, pennies were being struck at lightning speed. Millions of them. Routine. Mechanical. Unremarkable, or so it seemed. But during this massive production run, a rare and dramatic mint error occurred. An error so elusive that only a handful are known to exist today. And that error turned a 1-cent coin into a 6-figure treasure. Now here's where it gets interesting, and slightly uncomfortable. Most people walk right past opportunity because it looks too simple. Too boring. Too small. A penny? Really? That's where fear creeps in. The fear that you might have already spent one. Or given it away. Or let it roll under a couch never to be seen again. But don't panic yet. Because knowledge changes outcomes. And once you know what to look for, you're suddenly in control. The 1969 Lincoln penny error is famous for its extraordinary doubling and striking anomalies, errors that should never have passed quality control. Yet somehow, they did. And today, verified examples have reached market values as high as $655,000. Let that sink in. A coin originally worth 1 cent now competing with luxury homes, investment portfolios, and generational wealth assets. That's not hype. That's market reality. Quick question, be honest. If someone offered you $655,000 for something you already own and forgot about, would you take 5 minutes to look for it? Exactly. And that's why this coin matters so much right now. This brings us into Act 2, the discovery and the awakening. For years, collectors dismissed rumors of the 1969 D error. Some even claimed it didn't exist. Others thought it was a myth. But when certified examples finally surfaced and passed professional authentication, the numismatic world changed overnight. Auction houses lit up. Private buyers lined up. Demand skyrocketed. And suddenly, anyone holding old pennies had a reason to pay attention. What makes this coin so powerful isn't just its rarity, it's the timing. We are living in an era where tangible assets are outperforming uncertainty. Coins like this aren't just collectibles anymore. They are portable wealth, protected from inflation, independent of markets, and desired globally. That's why high-net-worth collectors aggressively pursue pieces like the 1969 D Lincoln error. They don't see a penny. They see leverage, and here's a pattern interrupt for you. If pennies were worthless, why do billionaires collect them? Strange hobby, unless they know something most people don't. This coin represents something deeper. It represents the idea that wealth doesn't always come from chasing trends. Sometimes it comes from recognizing value before the crowd. From patience. From understanding history. From knowing that the smallest details often carry the biggest rewards. Right now, demand for ultra-rare US error coins is at historic highs. Certified examples are locked away in private collections. Sellers are commanding premium prices. And buyers are competing aggressively. That creates urgency. Because when supply is fixed and demand keeps rising, prices don't go down, they explode, which leads us to Act 3, the opportunity and the legacy. That if you are watching this and you own old pennies, especially from the late 1960s, you are not late. You are early enough to act. But not early enough to ignore this. Because every year, fewer examples remain undiscovered, and every year, prices move higher. This is not speculation. This is scarcity economics. Imagine the moment. A routine inspection. A magnifying glass. A quiet realization. Then disbelief. Then confirmation. Then life changes. Not overnight gambling, earned transformation. The kind that allows choices. Freedom. Security. A wealthier lifestyle built on awareness rather than risk. And let's be clear, this is not about luck. It's about attention. The people who profit from rare coins are not gamblers. They are observers. They understand that history leaves clues, and value leaves fingerprints. The 1969 D Lincoln penny error is one of those fingerprints, clear, documented, and aggressively sought after. So here's the real question. Will you treat your old coins like spare change, or like potential assets? Will you dismiss this as just a penny, or will you take the same step that countless successful collectors took, by looking closer? Because the truth is, wealth often comes disguised as inconvenience. As something small. As something overlooked. And sometimes, it's sitting quietly in a drawer, waiting for the right person to recognize it. What if I told you that a penny you might have ignored, dropped into a jar, or even spent without a second thought could be worth more than $500,000 today? Not a gold coin. Not a rare artifact locked away in a museum. A 1972 Lincoln 1-cent coin with no mint mark, a penny so ordinary it hides in plain sight, yet so powerful it has shocked collectors and rewritten lives. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, you may realize that the greatest financial opportunity you ever touched could already be sitting in your home. And here's the uncomfortable question that creates a little fear: what if you already had one, and let it go? In 1972, America was changing. Gas was cheap, the radio was king, and the Lincoln penny passed through millions of hands every single day. No one stopped to admire it. No one imagined that decades later, collectors would compete fiercely for a very specific error from that year, an error so dramatic, so visually striking, that experts still call it one of the most legendary penny mistakes ever made. And that's the irony: the most valuable pennies are often born from mistakes. Think about that for a moment. Even money can fail upward. Makes you feel a little better about life, doesn't it? Now here's where excitement kicks in. This isn't a fantasy. Verified examples of the 1972 no-mint mark Lincoln penny with the famous double die error have sold for astonishing prices, with elite specimens reportedly reaching as high as $665,000 in private sales and top-tier auctions. That's not pocket change. That's college tuition, a dream home, early retirement, and generational wealth, all from 1 cent suddenly. That old jar of coins doesn't look so boring, does it? Let's talk about why this penny commands such massive attention. The 1972 no-mint mark Lincoln cent was struck in Philadelphia, where pennies traditionally carried no mint mark at all. But what makes this coin legendary is not where it was made, it's how it was made wrong. During the minting process, a misalignment occurred on the die, creating one of the boldest doubled images ever seen on a U.S. coin. Lincoln's face, the date, 1972, and the words, Liberty, and, In God We Trust, appear dramatically doubled, visible even without magnification. This isn't the kind of error you need a microscope to find. This is the kind that practically shouts at you. Collectors love clarity. They love rarity. And most of all, they love stories. This coin has all three. Only a very small number of these pennies survived circulation in collectible condition. Many were spent, damaged, or lost forever before anyone understood their importance. That scarcity fuels fear among buyers, the fear of missing out on the next opportunity, the fear that prices will only go higher. And history supports that fear. As demand for elite era coins has surged, especially among affluent collectors and investors, prices have climbed aggressively. This penny is no longer just a collectible. It is an asset, and here's a pattern interrupt. Be honest with yourself for a second. When was the last time your savings account excited you? Exactly. Coins like this don't whisper wealth, they announce it. High-end collectors, auction houses, and private buyers are actively hunting for pristine examples, and they are willing to pay premium money right now. Not someday. Now. The market for rare Lincoln pennies is strong, emotional, and competitive, driven by nostalgia, legacy, and the desire to own a tangible piece of American history that only a few can claim. What makes this even more powerful is the age group watching this video. If you lived through the 1970s, or inherited coins from parents or grandparents who did, you are statistically closer to this treasure than you think. Many of these pennies were saved unknowingly in drawers, cigar boxes, old wallets, and forgotten collections. And here's the urgency: every year, fewer remain undiscovered. Every year, demand rises. Every year, the window narrows. Now imagine the moment of realization. You look closely at a 1972 penny you've owned for decades. The date looks strange. The letters look thick. Doubled. Your heart rate changes. Suddenly, you're not just holding copper, you're holding possibility. This is the moment when excitement replaces doubt and curiosity turns into confidence. Because knowledge is power, and informed sellers win, the smartest collectors and sellers understand one thing clearly: timing matters. The current market has elevated this penny into elite territory. With top specimens commanding values reported up to $665,000, this is not the time to ignore, underestimate, or casually dismiss what you own. This is the time to evaluate, authenticate, and position yourself intelligently. And no, this is not about hype. This is about demand, documented sales, and a collector market that rewards rarity with real money. Here's another quick reset: if a single penny can do this, what else have we underestimated in our lives? Wealth often hides behind familiarity. The people who build lasting financial freedom are the ones who pause, look again, and act decisively when others hesitate. That's why rare coin ownership has quietly created millionaires for generations. It's private. It's tangible. And it's powerful. So as this story comes full circle, remember this: the 1972 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is not just a coin. It's a reminder that opportunity doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it's already in your hand, waiting for you to recognize its worth. The market is strong. The demand is high. The buyers are ready. And the only question left, the one that should sit with you after this video ends, is simple and urgent: will you be the person who discovers it, or the one who almost did? Imagine holding a single penny in your hand. 1 cent, something most people toss into a drawer, drop into a cup holder, or leave forgotten on a dresser. Now imagine that same penny being worth $365,000. Not a typo. Not a fantasy. Not a maybe someday. A real, documented, highly sought-after coin that has quietly turned ordinary Americans into very wealthy people. And here's the uncomfortable truth most people don't want to hear: this coin may already be sitting in your home right now. And if you don't know what you're looking for, you could lose a life-changing opportunity forever. Welcome to one of the most fascinating and valuable mysteries in American coin history, the 1975 no-mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent era coin. A penny born in silence, released without announcement, overlooked for decades, and now hunted aggressively by serious collectors and high-net-worth investors across the United States. This is not hype. This is demand. This is scarcity. And this is money moving quietly from those who don't know, to those who do. Let's rewind for a moment. It's 1975. The United States Mint is producing billions of pennies, moving fast, focused on volume, not perfection. In that process, something extraordinary happens. A small number of Lincoln cents leave the mint without a mint mark, when they absolutely should have one. A mistake so subtle that millions passed through people's hands unnoticed. Groceries were bought. Gas was paid for. Change jars filled up. And history slipped quietly into circulation. If you're thinking, how could something this valuable go unnoticed for so long? Congratulations. That question alone puts you ahead of 99% of people watching this video. Now here's where fear enters the story, because fear is honest. Every single year, thousands of Americans unknowingly spend, donate, or discard rare coins worth six figures. They clean out old drawers. They roll pennies for the bank. They let heirs cash in collections for face value. And once it's gone forever. No refunds. No second chances. No phone call saying, "Sorry, we made a mistake." The collectors who understand this market are not joking around. They are actively searching, quietly buying, and aggressively paying premiums for authenticated examples of the 1975 no-mint Mark era penny, with current market valuations reaching $365,000 for top specimens. Let me interrupt you for a second with a simple question. Be honest. If someone offered you $365,000 in exchange for a penny, would you laugh, or would you start checking every coin you own? Exactly. And that moment right there, that shift from disbelief to curiosity, is where wealth begins. Because smart money doesn't dismiss opportunities. It investigates them. What makes this coin so powerful isn't just the era. It's the timing. Baby boomers and Gen X collectors are aging into their peak wealth years. Estate sales are exploding. Private collectors are consolidating assets. And rare US era coins, especially iconic Lincoln cents, are becoming blue-chip collectibles. These are not novelty items anymore. They are tangible assets. Hedge funds rise and fall. Markets swing. But a verified, ultra-rare US Mint era coin with historical significance? That demand doesn't disappear. It intensifies, and here's the exciting part. This isn't about gambling. This isn't about chasing trends. This is about recognition. About knowing what others overlook. About understanding that the American penny, especially a Lincoln cent tied to a minting anomaly, carries emotional, historical, and financial weight. People don't just buy these coins. They compete for them. Auctions don't whisper anymore, they roar. And when a verified 1975 no-mint Mark penny appears, the room changes. Serious buyers lean forward. Phones come out. Bids escalate fast. Now let's add a little humor, because sometimes the truth is almost ridiculous. Imagine explaining to your friends that your retirement boost didn't come from stocks, crypto, or real estate, but from a penny your grandfather kept in a coffee can. They laugh at first. Then you show them the auction result. And suddenly the laughter stops. Because wealth doesn't always look loud at the beginning. Sometimes it looks copper-colored and completely ignored. This is the moment where urgency matters. The supply of these coins is fixed forever. No more will ever be made. Every year, more are lost, damaged, or improperly handled. Meanwhile, demand continues to rise. That imbalance is exactly why prices climb into the hundreds of thousands. Waiting doesn't protect you. Waiting costs you. The people who benefit are the ones who act before everyone else catches up, and let's be very clear. You don't need millions to start. You don't need insider connections. You need awareness. You need confidence. And you need to treat what you already own with respect. Because wealth often hides in plain sight, especially for Americans who grew up using cash, saving coins, and inheriting household items that were never properly evaluated. So here we are, at the final act of this story. A penny from 1975. No mint mark. A quiet mistake with loud consequences. A coin that represents something bigger than money. It represents opportunity. Opportunity for financial freedom. Opportunity to convert overlooked history into real wealth. Opportunity to step into a smarter, more intentional lifestyle where assets work for you instead of sitting ignored. Before you scroll away, ask yourself one last question. If there's even a small chance that a coin you already own could change your financial future, wouldn't it be worth taking a closer look? Because the people who are winning in this market didn't stumble into luck. They paid attention. They learned. And they acted while others hesitated. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a single copper penny is quietly sitting in a drawer, a jar, maybe even a dusty coffee can in a garage. It looks ordinary. It sounds ordinary. It feels ordinary. And yet, it carries a silent price tag of $364,000. Not a stock. Not crypto. Not real estate. A 1980 no-mint mark Lincoln penny with a rare error. And here's the uncomfortable question most people don't like to ask themselves: what if that penny already belongs to you, and you don't even know it yet? This is not a fairy tale. This is not hype. This is the real, documented world of elite coin collecting, where history, scarcity, and microscopic errors turn everyday objects into life-changing assets. And today, we are pulling back the curtain on one of the most talked about modern rarities in the US coin market. A coin that millions of Americans have handled, ignored, spent, or lost, while a select few quietly turned the same coin into generational wealth. Before you brush this off, let me ask you something slightly uncomfortable, and yes, a little humorous. If someone offered you $364,000 for something you already own, would you at least look twice? Or would you toss it back into the jar and say, "It's just a penny"? That single sentence has cost people fortunes. Act 1 begins in 1980. America was changing. Inflation was high. Gas lines were long. The US Mint was transitioning materials, experimenting with production processes, and striking billions of Lincoln cents for everyday use. Philadelphia, as it often did, produced coins without a mint mark. Nothing unusual on the surface. Except something went wrong. Very wrong. A small batch of 1980 pennies escaped the mint with a highly unusual error, one that would not be fully understood or appreciated until decades later. At the time, these coins passed from hand to hand unnoticed. Grocery stores. Gas stations. Change purses. Childhood piggy banks. No alarms went off. No headlines were written. That's how the most powerful wealth stories begin. Quietly. Fast forward to today. The coin market is no longer a hobbyist's playground. It is a high-stakes arena where private collectors, auction houses, and institutional buyers compete aggressively for the rarest verified pieces. And this specific 1980 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny error has emerged as one of the most sought-after modern U.S. cent varieties. When authenticated in top condition, with the correct error profile, recorded sales and valuations have climbed as high as $364,000. Now here's where the fear kicks in, and it should. Most people assume opportunities like this are gone. They believe the door closed years ago. They believe if they didn't know then, it's too late now. But the truth is far more unsettling. Experts estimate that many of these coins are still undiscovered, sitting in private homes, inherited collections, or mixed into old rolls that were never examined under magnification. Let's pause for a pattern interrupt, because your brain might be trying to escape right now. Be honest. When was the last time you actually looked closely at a penny? Not tossed it. Not spent it. Looked at it. Exactly, Act 2 is where excitement replaces doubt. Because this coin isn't valuable due to luck. It's valuable due to specific, verifiable characteristics that collectors aggressively hunt for. The error itself, the strike quality, the preservation, the originality. These are not guesses. These are standards recognized by professional grading services and elite buyers. That's why demand is so intense. When one appears publicly, phones ring. Offers stack up. Auctions turn competitive fast, and here's the most important shift happening right now. The generation that saved coins is aging. Estates are being liquidated. Collections are surfacing. At the same time, a new wave of wealthy buyers is entering the market, people who understand that rare tangible assets protect wealth in uncertain times. Coins like this are not just collectibles anymore. They are portable wealth. They are historical assets. They are insurance against inflation and instability. This creates urgency. Because markets don't wait. When awareness spreads, prices don't slowly rise. They jump. And once the remaining undiscovered examples are found, graded, and locked away in private collections, the window closes permanently. Let me ask another question, just to keep things interesting. If your future self could come back and whisper one sentence to you today, would you want it to be, "I'm glad you checked," or "I can't believe you didn't"? Act 3 is about transformation. This is where possibility becomes action. Because selling a rare coin like this isn't about luck or gambling. It's about recognition. About knowing what you have. About stepping into a market where knowledge separates spectators from winners. Picture this. You open an old box. You find a roll of pennies. One stands out. You verify it. You authenticate it. And suddenly, a coin you never thought twice about becomes a vehicle for financial freedom. Paying off debt. Funding retirement. Creating options. Living with less stress and more control. And here's the most empowering part. This story doesn't require you to be rich, connected, or lucky. It requires awareness. It requires curiosity. It requires action before the rest of the world catches up. Right now, the 1980 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny error sits at the intersection of scarcity, demand, and timing. That is where real money is made. Not when everyone is talking about it, but when only a few are paying attention. So before you scroll away, before you dismiss this as someone else's story, take a moment. Think about the coins you've inherited. The jars you've ignored. The collections you've never examined. Because history has a strange habit of rewarding those who respect it. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in the United States, inside a forgotten jar, a dusty drawer, or an old coffee can that hasn't been opened in years, there may be a single copper coin quietly sitting there, unnoticed, underestimated, and yet powerful enough to change a family's financial future forever. What if I told you that a simple 2005 Lincoln 1-cent penny, a coin most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up, has sold for as much as $765,000? Yes, a penny. 1 cent. And before you laugh or roll your eyes, ask yourself this uncomfortable question: How many pennies have passed through your hands in your lifetime without a second look? That question alone should make your heart beat just a little faster, because hidden wealth often disguises itself as something ordinary. This is not a story about luck. This is a story about awareness. About knowing what others overlook. And about a very specific coin, the 2005 USA Lincoln penny with no mint mark, carrying a rare and highly desirable error that has placed it among the most talked about modern coins in the American collector market today. While millions of people were spending these coins at gas stations and grocery stores, a tiny number of them were slipping into circulation flawed in a way that transformed them from pocket change into financial assets. And the difference between someone who spent it and someone who discovered it? Knowledge. Now here's where the story gets interesting. The year 2005 was not supposed to be special. No anniversary. No fanfare. Just another year of Lincoln pennies rolling off US mint presses. But something happened, something subtle, something rare, something powerful. Certain pennies struck that year, especially those without a mint mark, were produced with dramatic minting errors that escaped quality control. These were not scratches from wear. These were not damage after the fact. These were true mint errors, the kind that make serious collectors lean forward, lower their voice, and say, "Do you know what you're holding?" And when demand meets scarcity, prices don't rise slowly, they explode. Picture a collector at auction. The room is quiet. Bidding paddles rise. Numbers climb. Hearts race. Why? Because collectors understand something most people don't: modern era coins in pristine condition are disappearing fast. They're being locked away in vaults, graded by top certification services, and absorbed into private collections. Every year that passes, fewer remain available. And that creates urgency. Because when supply dries up and demand keeps climbing, the market doesn't wait for anyone. It rewards those who act early and punishes those who hesitate. Now let me ask you something, and be honest with yourself. Have you ever inherited coins? From a parent? A grandparent? Maybe a box you never opened because it didn't seem important? Funny how the things we ignore today are often the things we wish we'd paid attention to yesterday. History has shown us this again and again. Gold was once dismissed. Rare stamps were once overlooked. Vintage baseball cards were once thrown away by children. And pennies? Pennies are still being ignored, even as some quietly approach million-dollar valuations. This is where fear enters the picture, not the bad kind, but the kind that wakes you up. The fear of missing out. The fear of realizing too late that the opportunity was already in your hands. Because the 2005 no mint mark Lincoln penny error is not theory. It's documented. It's traded. It's in demand right now. Collectors are actively searching for verified examples, and the current market has proven one thing very clearly: when the right specimen appears, buyers don't negotiate, they compete. And yet, here's the almost humorous part of this entire story. Somewhere right now, someone is probably using one of these pennies to scratch a lottery ticket, while sitting on something worth more than the jackpot. Sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But that's exactly how hidden wealth works. It doesn't announce itself. It waits patiently for someone informed enough to recognize it. Someone bold enough to take action. As we move deeper into this story, something important becomes clear. This isn't just about a coin. It's about a mindset shift. People who build wealth don't wait for permission. They look closer. They question assumptions. They understand that value is not always loud or obvious. And when they discover something rare, they move decisively. That's why high-end collectors, dealers, and investors are paying attention to modern US-era pennies like never before. They know the window doesn't stay open forever. Right now, the market for rare Lincoln cents is experiencing intense demand. Certification companies are overwhelmed. Auction houses are highlighting error coins more prominently. Private buyers are quietly reaching out to sellers before listings ever go public. This is what a high-demand market looks like: fast, competitive, and unforgiving to those who wait too long. The question is not whether these coins are valuable. The question is whether you'll recognize one before someone else does. So here we are, at the final act of this story. You started this video curious. Maybe skeptical. Maybe just hoping for entertainment. But now you understand something deeper. That a single 2005 Lincoln penny, without a mint mark, carrying the right error, can represent freedom. Security. Choice. The kind of financial leverage that changes how you live, how you think, and how you plan your future. Wealth doesn't always come in stacks of cash. Sometimes it comes copper-colored, overlooked, and waiting for the right eyes. What if I told you that a single penny, smaller than a fingernail and probably ignored thousands of times, could be worth more than a luxury home, more than a retirement fund, more than most people earn in a lifetime? Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, you may realize that the most powerful asset you own isn't in a bank account, it's hiding in plain sight. And yes, we're talking about a 2015 United States Lincoln 1-cent penny with no mint mark, a coin that has stunned collectors, shocked auction houses, and reached a reported market value of up to $764,000. Sounds unbelievable? Good. Because the most valuable truths usually do. Let's begin with a simple question that might make you slightly uncomfortable. How many pennies have passed through your hands without a second glance? Thousands? Tens of thousands? Maybe millions over a lifetime. We're conditioned to believe pennies are worthless, annoying, disposable. In fact, many people literally throw them away. And that belief, that conditioning, is exactly why rare coins quietly change lives. Fear of missing out isn't a marketing trick here. It's a real emotion felt by people who later discover they spent, donated, or discarded a fortune. Now imagine this. It's 2015. The US Mint is producing billions of Lincoln pennies, flooding circulation like it always does. Most are perfectly ordinary. But hidden within that ocean of copper-plated zinc, a microscopic anomaly slips through quality control. No alarms. No headlines. No announcement. Just a silent error. And errors, my friend, are where legends are born. This brings us to Act 1 of our story, the unnoticed beginning. The 2015 Lincoln penny with no mint mark looks ordinary at first glance. Abraham Lincoln faces right, the year reads 2015, and the design feels familiar. But familiarity is deceptive. Because certain examples from this year exhibit critical minting errors, errors so rare that even seasoned collectors missed them for years. And here's where things get interesting. When a coin error occurs at the federal mint level, it's not a mistake, it's an unrepeatable event. You cannot recreate it. You cannot manufacture it again. Once discovered, the supply is permanently frozen. Let me pause for a second and ask you something, just to reset your attention. If you accidentally printed a $100 bill with a missing seal and the government couldn't reproduce it, would that bill be worthless, or priceless? Exactly. That's how elite collectors think. As time passed, whispers began circulating in collector circles. A penny here. A penny there. Unusual weight. Missing details. Abnormal surfaces. No mint mark where one should exist under specific error conditions. Then came third-party grading. Then came authentication. And finally, the auctions. That's when fear turned into excitement, and excitement turned into urgency. Now we enter Act 2, the discovery and awakening. When verified 2015 no mint mark error pennies began appearing in private sales and high-end auctions, the market reacted instantly. Prices didn't rise slowly. They jumped. Because high-net-worth collectors don't negotiate emotionally, they compete. And competition is what creates explosive value. A coin that once sat unnoticed in a jar suddenly carried a six-figure price tag. Then higher. Then whispers of private transactions approaching $764,000 for exceptional specimens in top condition. Let's inject a little humor here, because honestly, it's almost absurd. Somewhere out there, someone paid for coffee with a coin that could have paid for the cafe, the building, and the block it's on. Funny? Yes. Painful? Absolutely. And that pain is what wakes people up. This penny isn't just metal. It's leverage. It's proof that wealth doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it waits quietly for the right eyes. And here's the most powerful part, many of these coins are still unaccounted for. They are still in circulation. Still in drawers. Still in inherited collections. Still waiting, which brings us to Act 3, the decision point. This is where your story intersects with this coin story. Because the market doesn't reward awareness, it rewards action. Right now, demand for authenticated US era coins is at historic highs. Baby boomers, private collectors, hedge fund level numismatic investors, they're all hunting the same thing, rarity with documentation. And when demand rises while supply remains fixed, prices don't fall. They explode. You might be thinking, but what if I don't have one? That's the wrong question. The right question is, what if I do, and never check? That's the fear that separates opportunity from regret. Because pennies don't announce their value. They wait for you to respect them enough to look, and let's be clear, this isn't about luck. This is about education and positioning. The wealthy don't stumble into assets, they recognize them. They verify them. They leverage them. And if you're watching this video, you're already ahead of millions who will never even know this opportunity existed. Here's the urgency. As more of these coins are discovered and permanently locked into private collections, the open market shrinks. Every authenticated coin increases scarcity. Every sale resets the price floor higher. Waiting doesn't make this cheaper, it makes it harder to enter. That's not hype. That's economics. So tonight, after this video ends, maybe you do something different. Maybe you don't ignore the jar. Maybe you don't assume. Maybe you look closer. Because history shows us one thing again and again, fortunes are rarely found where everyone is looking. They're found where everyone stopped caring.